when we talk about how the economy affects all of us, how we live in a series of concentric circles that goes from the planet itself and global trade and global war to our very own households, I want to talk a little bit more about the personal consequences of things like government policy and government neglect to do things like properly oversee Wall Street banks and how that affects us in our daily lives. You know, back in 2009, 2010, there were very few people writing about the homeowner crisis, about the foreclosure crisis, about the ways in which banks were cheating people out of their homes and their livelihoods. But I was doing it back then. I was writing about that back then, and I used to get a lot of letters. I still do once in a while, but I got a lot of letters around that time because it was a taboo subject to talk about the fact that people were not mismanaging their own lives necessarily if they ran into financial trouble. Sometimes they were victims. I wrote a piece about it back then called Letters from Foreclosure Hell. And as we continue to struggle with getting justice for the American homeowner, as we continue to see the media judge individuals for the life decisions they made, I'd like to share a few of those letters with you, a few comments from those letters, with permission from those who wrote them. Here's one, for example, from someone I've called Single Mom. She says, I lost everything. I am now losing the roof over our heads, my 30-year history of good credit, and my self-respect. I would cry at night, sobbing really, about how I had destroyed my life, how I can't look my son in the face now sometimes, for fear he will see how I let us down. Now, in communicating with her, I found out that she actually had done nothing wrong. She had merely been encouraged by her bank to take a loan under terms that were not fully explained to her. Now she says, I try to remember what it feels like just to live your life, just to go to a movie, to read a book, or take a walk without fear. I hate myself. I thought of suicide last winter a lot when I finally faced the fact that I would be losing my home, that my son would know I failed him and failed us. Now, these are the real life consequences of things we take for granted as public policy if we don't personalize them enough. Now, this was right around the time that Wall Street was mounting a huge campaign, which goes on today with a lot of compliant media and politicians to say, if you've lost your home, it's your fault. Now, we now know that Wall Street has paid tens of billions of dollars for foreclosure fraud, for fraudulently cheating people out of their homes. But this wasn't known back then. Back then, Wall Street was saying things like, quote, if you didn't pay your mortgage, you shouldn't be in your house, period. People are getting upset about something that's just procedural. We now learn that many, many, many homeowners were cheated by Wall Street due to foreclosure fraud. Someone wrote to me at the time, I was never late on a bill in my life. I was not even late on my mortgage. When I went to Bank of America for help, I was running out of time though, and I knew it. I should have tried to sell my house harder, should have borrowed money and paid my way around it. But just in time, this fairy tale HAMP came along. That was the program that was supposed to help homeowners. I spent over a year and a half of my life on that not so merry-go-round. The administration has kept hands off when it comes to prosecuting bad bankers, and it kept hands off when it came to using those HAMP funds to help homeowners get ahead. Now, we could go on and on with these tragic letters and with these tragic failures to help the American homeowner. But the point I want to make is this as we go into the next hour. We need to learn to stop blaming ourselves and allowing others to blame us for the wrongdoing of others. We need to take responsibility for sound financial management, of course, but we need to hold those who lead our economy accountable for their misdeeds. I'm RJ Eskow, and this is The Zero.